Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of And One. We got our first coach on the show. Moving from players, going to some coaches. How you doing tonight, Coach?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll have you introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, man. I'm Coach CJ Osuchukwu. I coach at Duluth Marshall. This is my 5th year coming up this winter.
There we go. I'd say you had some pretty big success at Duluth Marshall. Had some pretty good seasons up there, huh?
Yeah.
So I know we're talking about coaching, but we'll start all the way back from when did basketball first come into your life, start playing it?
Yeah, so I'm originally from like the DMV area, the Maryland, Washington, D.C. area. Anybody that's really big in the basketball know the DMV, that's all we do. Man, basketball saved my life. I've been playing since I've been born. And yeah, man, came up here, went to UWS, went to school, got my degree, played, and yeah, the job opened up. I applied for it and I got it.
I was going to say, were you one of those players that, going through your career, high school and college and whatnot, did you think coaching was going to be in your future or not really at first?
Yeah, I always loved coaching. Like when I was in high school and they asked the older kids to give back to young kids, I was always one of the first people to do it. I'm a big believer in good karma and just always giving back. So I've been doing that since I was a shorty. So yeah, man, I've always loved coaching.
So how did that very first day when you're the coach of Duluth Marshall, do you remember that day? Like anything stand out about that very, very first day of the coach?
Yes, 5 seniors quit before the season started. I'm never ever going to forget that.
You're like, I remember all of that.
Yeah.
Well, I remember luckily you had two players stick around. They named were Grace Kirk and Gianna Neepkins.
Yeah.
One's at Brown, one's tearing up the Pac-12 at Utah.
Yeah.
What would as a coach, seeing kind of them go from that first day when you were the coach to where they are now, what did that, mean to you? Kind of what did they mean to northern Minnesota basketball?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing just because they were the first two girls to go D1 from Duluth in 25 years.
Wow.
And they were on the same team, which is crazy. I got to see both of them grow. I was there for both of their first offers. So it was just amazing just to see the progress and just to see their work ethic. And they have kind of they did start like a legacy, making it respectable for Duluth Marshall because Duluth Marshall wasn't known for basketball. Before I got there, they were like below 500. And then like the year before that, they were like on like an 88 game losing conference streak.
Oh, no.
So Gianna and Grace definitely changed the program and made it to what we are today.
One thing that I always think is really special about them, like when you talk to them and you've heard from them, the one thing I always liked about it is they wanted to make sure they not only like the door open for them, but that they kept it open and they didn't like run through that door and shut it. What does it mean for you that they took it on themselves to make sure, hey, we're going to be D1, but we want to, like you said, build that legacy and kind of make Northern basketball known where people, it's a destination to travel up to Duluth to come up and watch you guys play every year for people like me and Grant. What does that mean to you as a coach that they were willing to kind of take that on and say, hey, we want to make sure we set the legacy and set the stones here?
Man, it's amazing. I mean, they inspired a lot of little girls throughout northern Minnesota, which some of these quote unquote little girls are now in high school and middle school. So they remember just watching Gianna and watching Grace, watching them compete. They also influenced their teammates like Daisha Starks, Layla Monroe, Burley Morozic, people like that. They influenced them to, them girls knew they weren't going D1, but they were going to play as hard as they could for themselves and for Gianna and Grace so we could go as far as possible to try to get a state championship. So, yeah, man, they built that culture and that culture is still here today.
I love it. And then, so do you have a favorite game that sticks out as your favorite one you've ever coached in? Is it the state games, getting to state games kind of, or is it another one?
Yeah, I would say just coaching my first ever state game against New London Spicer, against a legendary coach in himself, he probably might end up going down as having the most wins, ever in coaching for girls basketball. So, just going there, being down double digits with 6 minutes left, coming back to win the game. That was probably I remember that game like it was yesterday. So that was a pretty cool experience.
And then I gotta ask about it. As a coach in her last game, when Gianna's just going off,
Yeah.
at that point, are you saying anything to her? You're just like, I'm just getting out of the way, or kind of how are you approaching like in timeouts? Are you saying anything to her? Is she saying much?
Yeah. So I mean, Gianna, I tried my best to be a player's coach. So like Gianna earned that trust after her sophomore year. Just how she was, her presence on the court. She's never been like a very vocal kid, but her senior year, she had to be a lot more vocal. So in that game, she could feel like, okay, this could be my last game. Like we need to pick it up. So yeah, she would coach. She would be like, hey, let's try this. Let's do this. Yeah, man, it was crazy to see, to be honest. I was paying attention to the score, but I wasn't paying attention to her points until I looked up at the end of the game. I'm like, she almost got 70 points. Like that's crazy. But yeah, so yeah, that was a crazy, crazy game to be a part of.
And so they kind of set the history. We'll move into a little more of the present for team right now. You still have some of the, you said that strong ground that's been laid right now. What
Yeah.
has you maybe, I don't know if we've started full practice yet or not. I think we're still a little bit away from the full season getting rolling.
Yeah.
What has you maybe one or two things most excited about this upcoming season?
I'm super excited. This is the hardest schedule we've ever had since I've been here. Schedule's pretty loaded. To have a team like Hopkins come down and play us, playing Holy Family. We're going to Minnehaha. Obviously, Grand Rapids is going to be a really competitive 3A team this year. We get to play them twice. So yeah, it's just it's I can't wait. I can't wait for the season. I want to see our girls compete, get after it, and see what they do versus these high level teams. Because at the end of the day, this is what they want to be. Their goals. They want to get to the state tournament and bring one back to Northern Minnesota. Like that's their goal. So.
And that's one thing I want, I think that separates, especially in 2A and, for sure 3A, when you play up. I see a lot of teams that don't, some of those teams like, and when you get to section games, when you're getting where there's fans on both sides, state games or whatever, you don't want to be shell shocked. And when you're playing, a Minnehaha, playing, up in Duluth Marshall, playing Holy Family, you're getting kind of battle tested. And so I guess from your perspective as a coach, why would you feel it's important to play up and make sure they're prepared instead of easygoing schedule where we could have a nice number behind us, but we really haven't been tested yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just like how I grew up. Like in the DMV, everybody wants to play each other. Like, it doesn't matter school size or anything like that. And we don't have QRF back home. So like, I think that kind of hurts us too. In Minnesota, I wish they would take that away just so teams wouldn't be so hesitant to play a smaller school.
Right.
Because then the QRF wouldn't affect you and you're basing it off record, right? So yeah, I'm just, like I said, I'm just super excited about this season. It's super important to always play up just because, like you said, it gives you early tests. So like when we're at UMD and there's 1,500 people, 2,000 people there, the girls aren't like, oh my goodness, this is our first real game, Nah, they're going to be ready because, with our strength of schedule and who we've played during the regular season.
And so being in 2A, including your team as well, who are some of those teams that you say look out for this year? Like, because 2A basketball doesn't always, I think a lot of times, sometimes it boils down to like people don't really know about it or even give it attention until you get to the state tournament. Who are some of the top teams that you face and enjoy kind of playing in 2A?
I would just say Crosby. Just because Tori works out with us. He's like family. Off the court, we're all one. On the court, it's a dogfight. Them adding Hannah Compton. I have been blessed to coach a really, really high level girl. So I know what one player can beat you. you know? So like having a sidekick and like Hannah and Compton is going to help them be 10 times better. Playing Mini Haha, you know, getting to play against Addie Mac, Holy Family, and Hopkins. Like a lot of my kids, we're so young, right? Like, you know, our oldest kid with minutes is a sophomore, you know, and
Right.
Regan Newman. Like we're really, really young. And a lot of these girls looked up to Nunu Taylor. You know, they watched them. They used to drive to the cities and watch those big games, right? So, you
Yep.
know, them coming to play them in person, it's like, oh, okay, like I used to watch you, I used to look up to you. So yeah, it's going to be interesting playing those teams. I would say, obviously, I would say just the heavy hitters, right? Providence Academy, being led by Maddie. Then you got you got the mini ha-has of the world, right? Even teams in our section, Pequot Lakes, they don't really have a stud, but they have 8 girls that can play. They're kind of
Right.
like Becker, like a little lower level of Becker, right? So yeah, man, I'm just those are the type of teams, and we played Pequot this year. So yeah, those are the type of teams that I'm looking forward to playing, and those are the teams like in a 2A level that, you know, we really have to be worried about.
So I know you've been in some big games. So as a coach, who has been the opposing player that's given you the most like sleepless nights going into that game that you've ever coached against?
Uh, to be honest, nobody has ever like made me like, okay, we gotta play her tonight, just because, you know, having that duo of Grace and Gianna, 2 girls that can give you 80 points. You know,
Right.
they were 30 points away for being the all-time leading duo in the state. You know,
Wow.
like so they like having them on your side, you just worrying about you and how you're going to execute things. I would say the girl that gave us the most hell was like Maddie. She was in 7th grade. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like watching her film, I'm not gonna say I didn't think she was that good, but I was just like, she's good, but she's a kid, you know. But I mean, she showed up like a woman that game, and she exposed us. So like that was, I would say that was probably the biggest, like, oh, okay, she's a real deal. But yeah.
And so we look at coming into this year, where would you say, in your opinion, your team has probably will show the most kind of growth or improvement this season as compared to where last year ended?
I think less turnovers. Being built for bigger games. Think this year we're going to see. I think this year the whole state is going to see another side of Regan. I think Regan's going to have like a really big year on the defensive end. And I'm challenging her to do that, and she's really been taking pride in that. So I think she's going to show she's not like one dimensional and just scoring. And then obviously like Chloe coming in as a 2028. She hasn't played a varsity game, but I think the whole state knows how good she is.
Yep.
Um, and again, she's gonna have to get used to the speed, the physicality, and things like that. But I think her skill set alone is going to help her get through games. But I mean, we have a lot of girls that people don't know about. Morgan Lucero, that's a 2027. You know, she shot over 40% from 3 last year. Her sister, Mariah Lucero, she's a freshman. Obviously, Ava and Anna, you know, they're both ranked top 40 in the state as 2026s. And this is going to be Ava's 3rd year as a varsity basketball player. I think she's going to have a tremendous year. And then we have a sleeper in Paige Norman. You know, she's a 6-foot post. We'll see where she ends up at. I think this year she's going to be going back and forth from JV to varsity, but I think she's like a year out from being an impact player. But you know, I think she's going to have some games where people are like, oh, who is this? So yeah, we have a really, like I said, we have a really young team with a lot with that they're hungry, like they're really, really, really hungry. So yeah, like I said, I'm really excited to coach this team, and I can't wait for the season to start.
So I know we've talked a little bit before when we did the team preview. Are you a coach? So coming into this year, is it, we're focusing on every day, let's get 1% better. Let's focus on the game in front of us. Are we putting out big goals and every practice that we're building towards those big goals, or kind of a mixture of both?
Yeah, so like, man, I'm a believer, like, you treat basketball like school, right? You don't tell your kids to go to school and not try to get A's. Like, I'm not coming here every day in practice and we're just playing just to be an average team. Now, if we set our goals high, and if you gave me everything you could and we couldn't reach that goal, we are an average team, then that's fine with me, right? Because we did everything we could to be the best team we could possibly be, and we just weren't there yet. But yeah, the goal is every year, to win the Lake Superior Conference, and get to a state tournament. Like, that's just point blank period. That's the end goal. That's our goals every single year. We're going to compete to try to get those goals every year.
I like it. What would you say is maybe 2 or 3 of the things your team you feel will do really well this year?
Shooting, running, and I think passing. I think we can end up, like, one of my goals for this overall team is to kind of try to lead the whole state in team assists, just moving that ball, getting that ball moving, playing a lot of small ball like the Warriors, passing and cutting and shooting a bunch of threes. So I'm excited for us to start that.
Who is your vocal leader on the team in terms of on the court? If the coach always they say they have that person that's out on the court, that's the coach on that court. Who's that vocal coach out on the court?
That's one of our, I don't know. That's one of our, like, biggest weaknesses, right? With youth, and all our girls are really not quiet kids, but they're not like in your face vocal kids. They're more like, okay, he tells us to do something, we're going to follow these directions and do them. I would say the closest person, it would have to be between Regan and Ava, but like, they still don't do it, like, so
It's
that's
not
going to be
something natural that comes to them.
Yeah, it's not natural at all for any of the girls. So yeah.
And I said, we talked about, like, with Gianna, it wasn't natural for Gianna to do. So I feel like they have that in them where it could come along. Like you said, youth kind of usually that's how they are younger. And so it comes up with that. So that, and I said, Ava, I'll always say the story. Ava stood out to me because when I saw her at every event she went to, and when you saw her in the games, she stuck with Madden. She wasn't fearful of Madden. She stayed with her, stayed in front of her, and then on the opposite side, gave it to her and kind of went right back at her. And I've seen seniors and I won't name them out, but I've seen seniors when Madden is charging toward the basket, step out of the way because they want no part of taking the charge or trying to stop her. And Ava, and like the Murata was like right there with her. I'm like, that stands out as someone who's like, she knows I can stick with her. And that's why, to me, I'm like, that is where, like, with Ava, I'm like, she has that in her. It's just like you said, it's when youth comes, it's got to pull it out a little bit.
Yeah.
I love that. So what would you say if I'll be at multiple games? If someone's coming to a must-see game, is it the Hopkins game this year, or is there another game that if someone's getting in that gym, they better be here for that game?
I would say a must-see game. I think us and Crosby. I think that for sure is must-see. I think that's going to be high scoring. And you get to see, like, a bunch of studs on the court, right? There's not a lot of northern Minnesota games where you have 3 or 4 Division I kids on a basketball court at the same time. I would say us and Minnehaha, because that's all the girls want, that smoke again. Like, they came up here and really laid it on us last year. We definitely want that smoke. And I think Hopkins, just because it's Hopkins, right? Like, who doesn't want to watch Hopkins play? And like, that's a game where, as long as I've been around and stories I've heard, like, that's a potential game that might have 7 to 8 Division I kids on the court at the same time. We don't, obviously in the Metro you see that, but we definitely don't see that up here in northern Minnesota. So I would just say, for all the young girls watching this and all the young girls that want to be college basketball players at any level, I think everybody should try to come to that game and watch that game, to watch our girls and Hopkins, watch really high level, watch 3 or 4 5-star recruits play on the court and just watch how they move and watch how they compete. I know we're going to learn something when we play them, and you know, the goal is to keep it competitive.
There you go. And so we've talked about the talent that you've had previously, the talent that you have this year with you. As a coach, who would be a dream player to coach that you've never gotten a chance to coach in Minnesota girls history, in any history, past, present, any coach, any player that you wish you'd have had a chance to coach?
Wow, that's tough. I mean, Minnesota history. I mean, you got to go with somebody. I mean, that's a bad question, man. Can we narrow it down? Can we? Because there's so many girls, I'll be like, okay, yeah. Like, I mean, you got the Hill, you got Taylor, you got Coley's daughters, you got
plenty of hills. There's like
Lindsay.
4 or 5 hills.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many girls that me personally, I can say this: the girl that in like the last like 5-6 years since I've been coaching, that I would love to coach is just Liv. Like, she just reminds me of how like we play back home. You know, she a dog. She a straight dog.
Absolutely. I've seen girls want no part of Liv McGill being their defender. Like, she will make, she's like, they're like, I'm good. I ain't going against her at all.
Yeah, she a dog. That's basketball. So I would say that like last 5-6 years, I would say her probably.
There you go. And you'll see her on the court. Your girls are gonna get a front row seat to Liv McGill.
Oh yeah. Now we got to watch her play at the state tournament. It was funny because all the girls like, hey, Hopkins playing. So we got to watch them play at the state tournament. They was playing Chaska in the summertime at the breakdown. So that was.
So then that's my other question. How do you think the girls will respond to last year falling slightly, not falling short of the goal of a state championship? How will you think they'll use that as motivation going into this season?
Oh, I mean, they motivated. I mean, a lot of the girls are in the gym. A lot of the girls are working out with each other. They're hungry. I think they're really, really hungry. And this year our section is kind of open. I think there's 3 teams that could possibly win it between us, Crosby, and Pequot. Obviously, Pequot being the favorite, they bring everybody back. Then we lost 2 games last year. But yeah, like us playing Pequot this summer kind of showed the girls that, okay, like we can compete with them. Like it's not a big, there's not a big difference there. But veterans win games, man. When you've been there, you've done it, you've seen it, and you're used to it, you're not gonna fold how maybe a young girl that hasn't seen it, might fold a little bit. Pequot, when they were our age, that's who we beat back to back years to get to state. Right. So they know how it feels to lose 8th, 9th, and 10th graders, and then now they're 11th and 12th graders and they winning. But yeah, so I'm excited for that.
I agree. I think especially in 2A, the last 2 champions in Albany and Providence, they had some big names, but the ones that won, Paige Meyer single-handedly, but she was that senior who did everything and was never rattled. You go to last year when Providence won it, you have Madden, who's kind of the name, but it was Maria and Grace hitting huge shots in close games. And I think it's that experience of not being rattled, of when you're at state, you're like, we've seen everything, we've done everything. You've seen that up close with Grace, with Gianna. Last year was, Layla and them. So I feel like, so you know what I mean? Like those experiences, there's no substitution for it. The young ones can give you kind of that energy and stuff. So I agree. I think sometimes experience really kind of is the best teacher.
Yeah.
And so we got to ask, speaking of them, have you been out to Utah Brown yet to watch them play in college?
Nah, I haven't. Not this year, but next year, 1,000% sure I'm gonna go out and go see them.
I was gonna say they're probably coming back home. Usually teams do pretty good about coming back to the U of M or St. Thomas. Now they have where they can come back here.
Yeah, nah, 1,000%. I'm gonna go see him. Yeah, man, Gianna, it's crazy. Like it's just
Pac-12
crazy.
freshman of the year.
Yeah, like I'm really happy for her because she puts in a lot of work that a lot of people don't see. And she's like the definition of coming from the bottom, right? Like second team North Tar in freshman year, not ranked that high, to being top 3 in the state, winning Gatorade Player of the Year, and now freshman Pac-12 Player of the Year. Like, I mean, I think there's a lot of girls can look at that and be like, man, just put your head down, keep quiet. She never cried about ranking. She never messaged you or Grant like, hey, I need to be this, that, and the third. She just put her head down and worked. So super proud of her.
I also think she has a history or a future in broadcasting. After the video of her being mic'd up, I say that needs to go. She needs to be mic'd up every game.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send her coach. I'm like, I'm letting her know, like, come on now, we got to mic her back. Like that was pure gold.
Yeah, that was funny. That was interesting to seeing that side of Gianna, for everybody to see that side of her.
So we won't take all your night. We'll end with this. What does success for the 2022-2023 Duluth Marshall girls basketball team look like, in your opinion? Overall, or even you can be small term goals, big term goals. What does success look like to you?
Success, I mean, I would say for them as young ladies to grow as women, I think that's like big. Like we talk about not really having a vocal part, not really having a vocal leader on our team. For them to just grow and be more confident in themselves as women. But I mean, basketball wise, like their goal, even the kids that don't take basketball that serious, like their goal is they want to get to the state tournament. So like that's their success, right? I will never call them failures, but you live and you learn, right? You learn from your losses, and you got to just keep getting better each day. But yeah, I would say success for us is just them growing as individual women by themselves, being more confident, for them standing on their own 10 toes, and then getting to that state tournament.
I love it. Well, I will say I'm a fan of the coach. I'm a fan of the team. I'm a fan of the players. I'll be at multiple games. I drive up to. You are the type of team and the type of coach that it's easy to. You're on the schedule to must travel up to Duluth multiple times throughout the year. When you come around the area, we make sure we come and see you in the gym. I highly suggest everyone else do it in Minnesota. Get to a gym if Duluth Marshall is playing. You won't be disappointed. They play a fantastic style. And I said, we've talked about the names. You have some super studs coming up that they got next after Grace and Gianna. Also, make sure to watch Gianna and Grace this year in the NCAA. Yeah. We're going to be fighting for NCAA tournament. Gianna's going to be fighting for a Pac-12 championship, I'm pretty sure. So, But Coach, I want to say thank you for taking your time. Good luck this year. Good health this year. I will be in the gym. You'll see me with the Skittles and the hat. Can't miss me.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
Have a great night. Thank you.
You too.
Bye.
All right.